Hi everyone, welcome back to Whole Notes, a series of videos and interviews with musicians who talk about wellness, taking better care of yourself as a musician, better practice habits, and more. In today's episode, we feature Michael Gaspari, who is a music producer, media scorer, and educator who went to the Frost School of Music for his master's degree in media scoring and production. As a neurodivergent musician, he has a lot of unique experiences and ways of seeing the world and ways of seeing music that really brought some interesting conversations into our talk today. And as a fellow neurodivergent musician myself, I had a really great time talking about our shared experiences and his upcoming and current projects. In addition to his teaching work at local schools in the Miami area, he also developed a computer-based program called Noise and Buttons, which is a really unique program designed to introduce students to the basic concepts of music at an accessible level. Stay tuned until the end to hear more about it. Michael and I had a really great talk about his music, his perspectives on sharing music, his story, and how his neurodivergence shaped his musical upbringing. So without further ado, let's get started. You have an album out, which I love. It's amazing. Like I've heard it many times.
Oh, thank
And
you.
yeah, and just really digging right in. It the album focuses on like from what I remember on your page, you mentioned how the album focuses a lot on like your experiences as a neurodivergent person and like your journey with like self-acceptance and stuff. Like how has that like overall journey throughout your life like influenced the way you write your music or like the way that your music is portrayed now?
Yeah, yeah, no. Well, first of all, I'm very happy you enjoyed the album. It took a while when I was originally writing it. I started writing it around 2020, so it was perfect timing where I was actually like figuring out who I was because I didn't know until around that time. And then pandemic happens. We're all home alone, or like just home wherever we are, and I'm like, I should write an album about this because it's a story, like
Yeah.
it's very much like a story that I've always wanted to tell, and why not do it with music? So 2022, I perform it for my senior recital at Oberlin. That was the
All
school I went to for
right.
undergrad,
Mhm.
and I think it went really well there because I really tried to also like make the environment where I was performing very friendly for neurodivergent people to be there, because I was like, this is
Mhm.
an album about neurodivergent, a neurodivergent identities, autism, ADHD, all that, and stuff that
Yeah.
I've experienced. So I have to make sure this is accessible too for people who want to see it. So
Yeah.
uh,
I
that
love
was a
that. Yeah.
yeah, that was a big part of that performance. But then the album releases later on, and yeah, I would say that it's really sparked for my future releases. I really want to continue to write music that delves into stories more current now that I've told that story of the past and all the hardships I dealt with then. Now I
Right.
want to write music that uh, dives into not just the hardships, but also the good things too that I'm currently experiencing and that I will experience in the future. So it's definitely been kind of like a big stepping stone in like my identity as an artist to write that album. And
Yeah.
I'm excited for especially for you and like everyone else I know to hear my next release, which is going to be diving into some more stuff about relationships and social situations and all that. So yeah.
Yeah. I love that so much. And I think it's so amazing how like your first release is something that's shares such a vulnerable part of your identity. Like something that a lot of people are afraid to talk about, like this conversation of being
Yeah.
this topic of being neurodivergent is something that a lot of people feel like they have to hide from the public because it's something different and the stigma and
Oh yes. Yeah.
misconceptions. Like I'm sure you've experienced a lot of that as well. Like, how is that? I'm curious to know how just the perception of the general public that the general public has on neurodiversity has like shaped your musical career or like your development of writing your own music?
Yeah, yeah, great question. I think I think I usually don't um I haven't thought too much about like when I was releasing On the Bridge, I wasn't thinking too much about the general public in that during that album because I did want to make an album that was like for neurodivergent people and
Right.
like for like so like other neurodivergent artists can or even just like listeners can experience that album, take away stuff that maybe they relate to, or even compare to what they've experienced, which might be different because every single autistic or ADHD person is different. We all have different stories to tell, and that's what's cool about it. Uh, yeah, I think now though that I've released this, in my future music, I do want to focus on not only sharing experiences with people like me, but also showing people who aren't like me or the people who um, are part of that society that stigmatizes neurodivergent people. I want them to hear my music and understand yeah, this is tough, like this society's not easy and there are ways that it could be better. And by vocalizing that, I think it's really important, especially through art. So yeah.
Yeah, that's such an important message. Like, I love that, like, that positive and hopeful message is what's guiding your music. Sharing that message with not only the neurodivergent community, but also just the general audience as a whole. Like, sharing your story is it's so powerful. So like, I'm so excited to hear what you have next. Um,
Uh,
yeah, and you mentioned a little bit ago how you made your senior recital accessible for neurodivergent people. I'm curious what that was like. What things did you put in place to make the environment more accessible?
yeah, so I first of all, like I did have lighting and I had video cues playing the whole time. Biggest thing, just making sure for like really any disabilities, including like, physical ones. I don't have epilepsy, but a lot of neurodivergent people I know do. So big thing was no flashing lights. The lights were basically just on or off, and like would fade in
Oh,
and out. So there wasn't any like crazy light shows. And if I'm being honest, I wouldn't know how to do that anyway. So it was kind of like it worked out that way. The videos, though, I did have to be very careful with that because I did want to like show intensity without like making it too intense. One thing I did for volume purposes, since some of the music is rock, it can be kind of loud. I made sure to provide earplugs at the front of the,
oh,
when people were walking in to get their programs and all that. Put all the trigger warnings in the program. I think that's becoming more common now. I've noticed in a lot of like student recitals and stuff, especially if they
like
have
volume
like
warnings.
volume warnings. Yes, for
Mhm.
electronic music, that's really important, and that's one thing I was definitely uh, trying to educate my department back at Oberlin about when I was a student there, because there's some cool pieces, but some of them are just too loud for me to like enjoy without accommodations. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure that like my music worked for most people and even though it obviously like that's a big challenge, not everything's going to work for every single person, but making sure that there's accommodations for the people that need them. And that was something that I learned a lot doing. I still think I could improve there. And I think everyone who does it can always improve. There's always we're always learning new things about neurodivergent identities. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really wonderful. I hope this level of accommodations becomes the standard one day. Like,
Yeah.
having those warnings in the programs like are that can be so helpful for so many people. Because there have also been a couple of concerts that I've been to where there are like flashing strobe lights, and it's legit painful. Like I have to close
Yeah.
my eyes because I
Like
can't.
even for me, like doesn't have epilepsy, I like still hate like that I have to close my eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like the sensory overload.
Yeah. With the loud music and the like the lights. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
yeah, totally.
Absolutely. And that reminds me as well. I know you also have experience teaching students that are neurodivergent.
Yes.
What has that been like? Like what was your experience? What did you learn from that? And like what did you enjoy the most from teaching neurodivergent students?
Yeah, I guess I'll start with like the first part of that, which is what did I
Mm.
love? What did I like or what did so I definitely liked that being someone who also is neurodivergent, that I could relate in that personal way. So like not only just being like, okay, I'm helping you navigate this world, but it's more like, hey, I've had to go through all of this. So now, and it was hard for me. And I wish that I had, someone that was neurodivergent in my life, like an adult or like, figure or something that could have helped me in that way during public school. So I'm here in a public school and I'm like, well, I guess I can now be that person for these kids who are, growing up trying to understand this complicated world. So that is definitely one of the things I found a lot of joy in. Also, I just love the conversations. Like we're all just like talking about special interests and stuff. Like I love hearing about like what these kids are into. There's so many like interesting topics that they'll bring up and I'll learn from them. So that's a big deal for me. Even currently right now, I work at a Fusion Academy as a teacher there, and we have a lot of students there who are neurodivergent, and a lot of them just have crazy cool interests. Like one of them is into like picking locks and knows so much about it.
Oh,
Yeah,
that is cool.
he's taught me so much. I'm
Wow.
like, wow, I guess I could rob a bank now if I want to. No, no, I'm not gonna do
Learning
that.
life skills from that.
Yeah, no.
Great.
But yeah, no, it's really cool. Another I guess the other thing is like what have I learned? I've definitely learned from experience from people I've seen, like colleagues who were working at the same school as I was back when I was working in New Jersey. I would work over the breaks that I would have from college. I've seen good, I've seen not so good.
Oh,
Without naming specific people or anything, it's I've seen just people who definitely show that they don't understand what these kids are going through, or like maybe if they're having a meltdown or if they're experiencing sensory overload, or if they need a stim toy to complete their work. Like I'll just see teachers like snatch them away, or like
oh my gosh.
yeah, stuff like that, like no, you can't have that, and I'm just like, I'm there
What?
like, no, that's not okay.
Oh
um
wow.
I'm like the kid's doing their work with the stim toy. Like
Yeah.
you just made the situation harder. And their argument is always, well, it's just not normal in the real world. You can't do that. I'm like, who said that? I'm like,
In the
what?
real world.
Yeah, I'm like, I always hear about the real world. That is one thing that I don't think, if that's what the real world is, that's not something I agree with. And I don't think it's that hard to just normalize, like, oh, like
Yeah.
that kid's stimming or that adult's stimming, like it's just normal,
Right. Like if it needs
so
headphones or a stim toy or brakes or
yeah,
whatever.
I've
Like,
seen so
yeah.
many of my like friends who like have autism or something, like they'll wear headphones like with me, and I don't like find it like, oh, they're being rude. I'm just like, oh, it's helping them be in the conversation, like that kind of thing. Like it's an accommodation.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I've just seen a lot of like the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I've not that I've like learned what not to do in that case, because I would have never done that, but it is like it was a really great experience for me to be able to call it out, and I did that a lot. I would be like, excuse me, hypothetical name, Billy needs a stim toy, like that's what's helping him work. Can we just give it back to him um and let's just do that and all that. And it was hard because I was, like not working there as long as some of these people. So a lot of them would just be like, oh, well, like, who are you to tell me that? And I'm just like,
Right, like
I
the whole
understand
form
this.
thing.
Yeah. So it was that was the tough part, but I did learn a lot from it.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
that's really great. Like you started to become like an advocate for the kids, which I think is just so amazing. Like you advocated for what they need, which there are some teachers like that and they're amazing, but there are also a lot of teachers that aren't like that, that I know you've
Yeah.
seen as well. Like
I've experienced it,
you've
like,
experienced it firsthand. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And like as
Yeah.
someone, I have a visual impairment too, and I've literally had teachers that told me, "Oh, you don't you don't need this extended time. You're fine." And I'm like, "But it's on my IEP." What do you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Exactly. Yeah, no, and teachers just like either like dismiss that you have accommodations or just make you feel like kind of like singled out in the classroom. Like they
yeah,
don't call on you or like they they don't like advocate for you when you're like literally being bullied right in front of their eyes, like that kind
yeah.
of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And um if let me know if this is too personal thing to ask, but I'm curious, when did you realize that you were neurodivergent? Because I'm sure that also had a big impact on how you have learned like self-acceptance and finding your
Yeah.
accommodations. Like, how has that played a role?
Yeah. Well, that's not too personal. I'm pretty open book when it comes to this. I love to talk about it. Yeah, no. So sophomore year of Oberlin, that was the year I finally got a single dorm, which was good, and that was by an accommodation. That and
Um,
I at that point I still didn't know, because the year before I had a roommate, really nice guy. I had no problem with the guy. I just couldn't deal with the sounds at nighttime because he snored and all the stuff. So like it wasn't just like a, oh, it's annoying. It was like a, I can't sleep. Like if he makes even the slightest noise while I'm in that room. Like so it was just like really rough. So I applied to get accommodations. They accepted me to have that. Um, and it was that time that I called my parents and I was basically just like, I need to know this. Am I autistic?
yeah.
And my mom was like, yes, yes, you are. And I'm like, and then I
But
was like,
she knew the whole time
they knew the whole time. I was diagnosed when I was like 2 years old or one.
and they never told you?
No, they did.
Really?
It's just that I didn't believe them when I was little.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And which makes
Interesting.
sense, like, because at that time, like, when you hear about autism in schools, it's always this stigma, like, you don't want to have this thing, like this
Uh,
label on you. So as a kid, I was just like, no, I'm not. Like, I talk to people, I'm social. At least I thought, like, I definitely wasn't. But, um, but yeah, so like at sophomore year, that's when I finally figured out because I was like, I've been thinking. I'm sitting in the single room and I'm like, this is for an accommodation. This isn't just like I got lucky. Like this is like the school was required to give this to me. So how did this happen? Like is it because I actually like do have something different about me? And that's what it was.
oh, wow. So it kind of filled in that piece of the puzzle, so to speak. Not
Yeah.
not to bring up the puzzle piece, autism.
Oh, of course. Yeah. No,
You, I'm
I
sure you've
get you.
seen the commercial where it treats autism like it's a disease. I
Oh
am
yeah.
autism and I'm coming for your
I will
family.
ruin your marriage.
I
Yeah.
will ruin your marriage.
I can't believe that. I can't believe it's real. Like
Yeah.
like sometimes like if I ever like see that video recommended to me on YouTube, I'll just watch it and laugh at this point. But I like just because it's so ridiculous. But I
I
do
wish it
like
was satire. Like,
I wish it was, and it's not. And
yeah.
and then I actually that brings me back in the reality, and I'm like, this is really depressing. But yeah,
Yeah. Well, at least it seems like things have gotten a lot better since then, as far as like the world being
yeah.
accepting. Like there's still
I
a long way to go, but
there's still a lot of wrong. I see it still, but it is better. And
yeah.
like, if I'm to have kids one day and they're neurodivergent, I feel like they're going to grow up in a better, world that accepts that more. Especially since,
Yeah.
we don't know what's going to happen in the next decade. There could be a lot more that happens.
Exactly. Like more accommodations, more support, like
Yeah.
just more acceptance in general. And future kids won't have to see that I am autism commercial.
Yeah, like instead they can, I don't know, see stuff with the rainbow infinity, because I love that
Yeah.
symbol. It's so cool.
Yeah, same. I actually have a sticker on my laptop with the rainbow infinity symbol.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I don't have like anything in my like apartment or like my backpack that like has that. I need to like find like I don't know like a pin or like like I don't know if they make flags with them on it, but yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's this company called Com Strips, and they're like sensory stickers.
Oh,
So I
that's
got,
cool.
yeah, it's a really nice texture, and it's like nice for, like a way to have that like
Is it like
sensory.
tactile? Like you like touch it and it feels good or something?
Yeah, they have some that are like that have like certain textures, like sandpaper and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're all like stickers, and you can like put them on your laptop or on your cup and stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of like sensory stuff, on my desk, where I do all my music work, I have a bunch of things. They're just
Oh,
always
that's
they
awesome.
sit on top of my audio interface, and it's just I use them all the time. I'll go to like the fidget spinner or like this
Hmm.
little video game thing.
Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah,
I've seen it
it's
like
just
that before.
this is the best one. It's like this,
Whoa,
yeah, it's a pentagon, but it like a
that's
3D
cool.
pentagon. And
It
it has
looks
like
almost like an optical illusion. Like that's awesome.
yeah, and it has so many different things. It's cool.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Like, yeah, you got a whole collection up there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and that also reminds me of the last thing that I wanted to ask you about
Mhm.
to for you to share with the community when this is posted, that you have this project, Noise and Buttons, which aims to make music education accessible for neurodivergent students. And I believe you've also used it in the classroom, right? Like you've used it with students.
I've used it, yes, with
Yeah.
students.
Can you give like an overview of what that is, and like what was your
Sure.
inspiration for making that as well?
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, it definitely spawned at the same time that I was thinking about making the album on the bridge,
Oh,
because at that point I was taking technology classes as a newly admitted Tamara major, which is technology and music related arts. That's what the program's called at Oberlin.
oh
Um,
wow, that's cool.
I was originally I started as a comp major, but I wanted to be a Tamara major so badly, so I applied as an internal. And after they accepted me, I got to start taking, tech music tech classes, and one of them was for Max MSP, which is basically a graphical programming environment sort of application where you literally have like little nodes and like cables, you hook them up together, and it's like it simulates, or it is literally just code, it's just visually shown instead of like line by line, which
Oh,
was accessible for me because I'm like programming's hard. It really is.
yeah.
But yeah, that I realized like this technology can be used to create experiences in electronic music that are accessible. Like you can make like one button like do like millions of different things with this software. So I was like, what if I get like an external button box? And I built it myself over the pandemic with my dad. We went to Home Depot, got the stuff, like the
Whoa,
wood,
that's
made it out of
cool.
wood. I don't have it with me here. It's back with my parents in New Jersey, but if I did, I would show it. But yeah, no. So the box has like these four buttons, and it's red, yellow, green, and blue. So I thought four buttons could do so many things. If one button can do a ton, then four can do a bunch, like just unspeakable. So I thought, what if I teach music by using just simply four aspects of it, right? There's four major aspects I think like most people can would say. Like there's tempo, there's rhythm, and then there's like timbre, like what it sounds like, and then there's the harmony. So I thought like that's a really good starting point for teaching music and color coding them. So like there's already like a visual element to it.
Mm-hmm.
So the app, which is actually currently available, if you go to my website, you can try it out. Uh, it's definitely like I used it as my thesis project at grad school, and talked about like
Oh, right. Wow.
yeah, and talked about like education with it and stuff. So what I did was I realized like the app alone is great, but I need a way to like implement this into like let's say a lesson plan. So luckily over one of the summers I was teaching a summer music school, a summer music class at the school district I was mentioning before back up in New Jersey.
Mm.
So I was like, this is the perfect place to test this out. So I brought the button box and I made like little keynote slides that had like very, accessible and adaptable lesson plans that talked about tempo. What is tempo? Here's examples of fast versus slow. And then examples where the kids could grab like whatever musical instrument they wanted and start and like play along to noise and buttons. So I would control the app and like turn the tempo up and down, maybe do some tricks in there, like throw like a curveball in and see how they would like do it. And uh I think it was a really fun hands-on way to teach it. And at
That
the end I
sounds
would
like a
just let
lot of
them,
fun.
yeah, at the end I would just let them like play with the app, just play with the button box and press all the buttons. And it doesn't matter, they can like hit it as fast as they can. App is always stable. um
Mhm.
so that's a good thing. But yeah, it was a really good experience because I learned a lot. I have like 100 pages of notes that I took while I was teaching. So I would
Oh, wow.
so like that's what I used for my thesis to like kind of like utilize it as research almost of like, okay, what worked, what didn't, right? Like for example, I had a student who was blind. Obviously the colors are not going to work for that student. So I wrote that as a note moving forward. And even though it wasn't something I could fix right in the moment because it would require like a whole new system, I
Um,
now have it in my notes as something that I will implement and stuff like that. Same with like a student I had who was deaf. One thing that would work really well for that student would be like a visualizer of like maybe like a shape or something that like changes based on the certain control. So like I don't know, the
yeah.
tempo could be like maybe like a slider that goes up and down, or something like that, and maybe like or like a metronome or something. I don't know. But yeah, it was a really good learning experience, and I am definitely continuing to work on the app and hope to utilize the like structure of it for like even let's say music theory, like intro to music theory and stuff like that, like using like this color
Yeah.
coding system and this noise and button system, even maybe for like music production, just really anything in music. And it can help people want to pursue learning an instrument in the future, or like doing any of that. So yeah.
Yeah, that sounds so amazing. It's like really cool to hear the story behind it. And the app sounds so versatile because it breaks down music in a simplistic way. So I could like totally see this being used in like production classes, music theory classes, like even like a beginning band class or something when students are still learning the concepts, like what is tempo, what is timbre, stuff like that.
Yeah,
Um, so it's
absolutely.
yeah, like that's so amazing to hear how like accessible it was for students that are neurodivergent, but also it could be accessible for students with other disabilities or just students in general. Um,
Yeah, like even like physically, like a lot of students I had were in wheelchairs, and the simple act of pressing a button was really easy for most of them,
oh,
and
nice.
stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I even had like a really fun little activity for some of the students who I like had like were paralyzed, like maybe in their arms, so they couldn't move their arms. I had a theremin and I hooked it up to an auto tune. So if they
Whoa.
rolled up and like they like if they like moved around the theremin, they could like make little like
That sounds so amazing. Oh my God.
it was so much fun because then sometimes like I would like wheel the kid closer and further away and they thought it was really like
Oh,
fun. They like definitely like had a
that's
lot of
so
joy in that.
creative. Like,
And it helped them like make like music because one of the assignments that we I did for my classes was that we made little like micro songs together as a class.
also they
So
got to
that was so
compose.
everyone got to like participate no matter what, like no
Wow.
matter like how like intense their disabilities were.
That's so amazing. Like everyone gets to contribute, everyone gets to make their own song and do something that is uniquely theirs. Like they're learning about music and they're following instructions in some ways, but they also get to do their own thing. Like I love that approach.
Yeah, it was fun. It was only 5 weeks long, so I didn't get to like spend as much time as I would have liked, but I guess that was a challenge. How can I teach this in a way that will stick with them afterwards, after these 5 weeks? And I think it
Right.
did.
Yeah, and
So
I would
yeah.
love to read your thesis as well. That sounds like really
It's
interesting.
most of it is available on my website. Besides like
Oh,
the whole like University of Miami thesis like title page and stuff. It's like
yeah.
I was able to format it the way I wanted to on my website. So yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a like, subscribe to see more videos like this, and be on the lookout for more upcoming episodes featuring professional jazz and classical musicians, music educators, music entrepreneurs, and more.